So one of the questions people ask me when they step into my office or they see the stuff behind me is, Chad, have you read all of those books? And the answer is, no, I haven't. But I know what's in them, and I've read parts of most of them. And the way that this is helpful for me is I've got a reading system, whereas I take notes and I save notes. And this is what I want to share with you today. So I'm Chad Brooks. I'm a pastor here in Louisiana, and I make videos about the Bible, the spiritual life, and the everyday going-ons of a pastor. And today I want to talk about reading because I read constantly. I think reading is super important for just anybody, period. If you want to be a well-rounded person, reading is one of the best ways you can do it. But if you're in ministry, I just think it's important to have a really big perspective on life and a big perspective of the world, no matter where you've lived or how much you've moved around. And reading is one of the ways that we do this. There's a couple of ways that we could read and things get overly complicated. Let's just call this a Reading 101 video. And especially what I want to do is I want to show you my reading kit. I think it's important to mark up books. I think it's important to know why you are reading something. And I think it's also important to have an idea of, wow, I might need this in the future. So let me do something with it that will help me understand it. The first way I do this is I've got a color code system for what I read, and I mark up my books with these little tabbies. I've got them spread out all across my office. I've got them stuck inside of different books. I've got a massive stash over in the drawer. I've got a whole drawer in my big tool case set up. I have a system that no matter what I am reading, these always mean the exact same things. I've changed it one time, and I try to write it down in the beginning of every book that I'm reading, but I've also found out that it's just super handy to have it set as a pinned note inside of Evernote, so I can forget it, that it does not have to necessarily live in my mind. See, I have it right there. You're not gonna see that. There you go. Maybe you'll see that. But this is what these color codes mean. If it's orange, there's a quote that I want to save. If it's yellow, this means that this is some sort of content that I am working on, a larger project, for a sermon, something like that. There's something going on larger inside of this I want to save for a reason. If I put green on there, it's important for preaching at some other point in time. Blue means it's just important. Like, I think it's important to the book, but more so it's just important to the larger whatever I'm trying to do at this moment. Pink is for big ideas. This is a big idea for the book, that if we want to understand this, if we want to see this, then I mark pink. It helps us progressively think through what the book is trying to communicate to us. Purple, I used to use purple for scripture. As you see in here, there's a lavender and there's a purple. I used to use these for scripture, but what I've started doing, I really don't do this all the time, but that means if I'm reading a physical book, and this is just my reading system for physical books, that I've dropped this into Readwise. Now, I'm not gonna go heavy into this because Readwise is primarily a digital tool, but Readwise is a digital tool that I have my Kindle highlights, I have Instapaper online, I have multiple things are all like sucked into Readwise, and I can actually take pictures from a physical book of a quote, and it will pull it into digital version and drop that into Readwise. And then Readwise sends those highlights out to Evernote and to Rome Research, the two things I use. Those are both keeping systems for me right now, if you keep up with the Productive Pastor ecosystem. But that's why reading is important. So I have a reading system. So what I want to show you now are the things that live inside of my reading kit that I keep with me. I used to keep these things in a little stasher bag, I think that's what they were called, but my wife got rid of this and I took it. This is from a company called Notco that's now out of business, but they were super big and popular in the pen world. So this is my reading kit. This stays in my bag with me, and I use it every time I'm reading a physical book. I don't have to worry about grabbing these things because I know this kit lives in my bag. So open it up. Got a blue pen and a black pen. just because I might want some variety sometimes. No big deal as to what that looks like. Then here's everything in there that might be dumped out. So you see, I've got a couple of these. I've got one of those that's there. I have run out of the pink ones. I bet you, yeah. Pink ones live right there. So I've got a whole set of those that's there. I've got some of these Post-it tabs, and I actually have a lot of them in there. But these are used for, I don't have a system for these so much. They're there because sometimes if I have something like really big, these are more so there to put into notebooks for some reason. Then I've got a couple of different colors of Post-it notes. If I want to write something in a book or really think through a more formed thought about something, or connect something in a way that might seem a little bit bigger, what I generally do is I stick a Post-it note on the page, and then I write on there. I also keep this ruler here. This is straight lines. If you've not figured out by now, I kind of draw things whomper-jawed all over the place. But this is my reading kit that stays in my backpack with me at all times. And I also always try to keep at least one book that I'm working on in my bag. So if I have 15, 20 minutes to kill, something like that happens, I'm able to read my book. Now, let me drop down just what this looks like when a book is done in front of this camera. My #1 book of 2021. I talk about this book constantly, but you see, very, very well read. This is what this looks like. So when I'm reading, so you see all of these, like I'm writing inside of the books. You see the Post-it note stuff that's going in there. You see stuff that is tagged that is in there. There's a good page. That's a good page. Just kind of a way I'm thinking through things. And this is what I do. I go through the book when the book is done, and I find what I think is actually critical, but also what's enough to keep me like thinking in the future. And I just drop those notes into Evernote. I could highlight them and just scan it into Readwise, but that's still a bit much work for me, and so that's part of my system is not perfect just yet, but it's getting there. And I think this is critical to reading something and to knowing, hey, I can always be using this. And when you have this much floating around, and you also have all of this that's down there, it's important just to know this is how I'm taking advantage and using my books and using the things that are going to, be the best for me and for ministry and what I'm trying to do. So that's like 101 of my reading system. I would love to hear, for those of you who read a lot or are in a more research-focused job, I'd love to hear about your reading system. So just kind of drop that down there in the comment box, and we can talk about that together. So until the next time, videos here, I'm Chad. If you love content like this, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Lets me know to keep on making videos like this, and I'll be hanging out with you in the comments. See you next time.